In March 1957, led by Kwame Nkrumah, Ghana gained independence from Britain, starting the wave of independence on the African continent. 1960 would later be dubbed the Year of Africa because 17 nations gained independence that year alone. The newly independent nations were permeated by joy, excitement, and the possibilities that the era of independence offered, the end of exploitation and the prospects of shared prosperity. In the following years, the average income on the continent would rise. But then in 1981, economic progress would hit a wall and start a long decline. 13 years later, in 1994, the average income in Sub-Saharan Africa was about the same as it was 3 decades prior in 1963. It was almost 25% lower than the average income in 1974, 2 decades prior. However, since 1994, income has risen consistently, and as of 2021, it was 36% higher than the 1994 average income. It is this rise in average income that led The Economist to publish its edition of Africa Rising, having labeled the hopeless continent some years prior, when many countries on the continent had dismal economic performance, were beset by wars and ruled by dictators. But the question is Africa really rising? Welcome to Africa in Chain, a new channel dedicated to educating the African youth, the future leaders of the continent. A channel designed to inspire and motivate the generation dubbed the Cheetah Generation by Ghanaian economist George Ayite. A channel whose overall and long-term objective is to sow the seeds of an African renaissance. Since hitting rock bottom in 1994, average income in Africa has been on the rise. Even if it declined between 2015 and 2021, it is still higher than it has ever been. Consequently, the poverty rate on the continent also declined. In 1994, when average income was at its lowest since independence, the average poverty rate on the continent was almost 60%. But in 2019, it was estimated at 35%. Although the poverty rate increased in 2020 due to the COVID-19 pandemic, it is still far lower than what it was in the mid-1990s. Because of this progress, Africa's middle class has more than tripled, and now over 30% of the population is classified as middle class. One factor that contributed to the dismal economic performance in many countries was the prevalence of senseless civil wars, but now there are far fewer conflicts on the continent compared to the 1990s and 1980s. Government debt on the continent has declined, which is very important because the higher the government debt, the higher the interest rate payment, so less funds are available for public investment. Inflation on the continent has steadily declined over the years. The number of people with access to electricity, clean water, internet, and mobile connection have all expanded significantly. And although progress has been slow, governance has broadly improved across the continent. Now, the economic growth and relative stability have attracted foreign investors, and foreign investors are piling up in several sectors on the continent. For example, Africa's startup scene is booming. According to certain estimates, the startup sector in Africa attracted $5 billion in 2021, more than 2018, 2019, and 2020 combined. And there are many unicorns on the continent. These are privately held companies that are valued at least $1 billion. But so far, we have only presented averages. So what about at the individual country level? Although several countries are still not doing so well, the economic situation in the vast majority of countries on the continent has improved. Botswana and Mauritius have long been the darlings of the continent in terms of economic success for obvious reasons. But there are other countries following in their footsteps. Rwanda is a great example, where after the genocide, with concerted effort, the government has been able to enact meaningful reforms that have led to great progress. Ethiopia is another excellent example, where economic expansion has been spectacular. You can add Ghana to that list as well. So yes, Africa is rising, and there is plenty of evidence to prove it. But, and there is a big but, just like with most things, there is another side to this story. Despite the progress, there are many challenges the continent faces. We mean there are mountains of challenges that the African continent faces. The African continent is complicated and complex, so it is very difficult and even impossible to reduce it to a single story. That is why I made a separate video about why the African continent is not rising. I will leave a link to it in the description. I hope you find the video informative. If you did, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe and share so many more people have a chance to see it. This is Africa Unchained. See you soon.